Hey friends, I'm back today with a traveler's notebook layout using the Jumping in Puddles collection from Rosie Studios. Now, my traveler's notebook at the moment is way too chunky to film with, so I'm just going to work on some white paper, which you can't see at the moment. You will see very shortly. I've already gone ahead and picked out, I think I've got five of the 6x6 pattern papers. I just wanted to get like I'm going to call it an ombre look, and it's not really because they're all different colors, but basically I picked out that kind of leaf pattern first and then chose a few coordinating colors to go with that, and I'm going to kind of stack them in a rainbow order. It'll make more sense when you see it than when I'm saying it, because you're thinking brown? How do you get a rainbow out of brown, Diane? We're about to see. One of the papers I've just left as is, and the other ones I have torn just a random amount. I'm going to say it's about 2 inches from the top and bottom. So you can see the effect I'm going for here. It's far too big. What I'm going to do is just stack all of these layers together with a little bit of adhesive. I'm just eyeballing it. You could definitely do this like with a ruler and measure out and make sure they're all even. I'm just eyeballing them basically, but you can see the order that I'm going in. I'm going to adhere 4 of those pieces together and then do the exact same thing with the other 4. This time though, I am lining them up with the first stack just to make sure that those stripes and the stacks end up the same size, because I'm going to kind of go for an ombre that's like from one end and then to the middle and then back to the other end. Again, I'm not describing it very well, and you'll see it when it comes together here. I definitely did not need as much of that middle paper as I've laid out. I also don't need as much as I've got on the end. So you can see when I actually lay it down onto my backing papers, it's far too big. So I go ahead and just trim down about a ½ inch off the bottom there, and that's going to give me enough of a peak of the middle color to be able to get the whole effect. So I'm just going to check everything lines up the way I want it to, and it does. So now I can adhere the whole thing down onto my background paper, my base paper, and then you'll see the whole effect for itself. I'm just going to start with the middle paper. I just adhered it again. I'm just eyeballing it into the middle. I have trimmed that so that it is big enough. It's going to overlap my papers considerably, so I don't need to worry about lining everything up too perfectly. I am just making sure that when I'm adhering these little paper stacks that I'm getting some adhesive on all of those layers. Of course, I've run out of adhesive in the middle of it, grabbed a new one and start again. So I've lined up the bottom one from the bottom, and I'm lining up the top one from the top, and now you can see the effect that I was so poorly trying to describe in the first place. So I love the kind of autumnal, cool, cozy kind of vibes of this collection. I'm just going to use one of the pre-made titles. I don't have to try to kind of work out what my title is going to be. I decided to go for this happy at home one. I took this selfie. Like, you can't tell, it is raining really heavily in the photo. I'm actually standing at a door, so I'm not standing outside in the rain to take a selfie. That would be insanity. I'm standing in front of it, but it's just that kind of kind of day, and it's those kind of days that do make me very grateful that I work from home. I do not have a huge commute. I don't have to get my feet wet. I can just walk down the hall to my computer and start my work day. So happy at home worked very nicely for this kind of subject matter. Now, I was kind of considering leaving the left-hand side of the page white, but it just felt too stark for me. Like, I'm talking about this really like moody kind of day, and although I'm not usually like cover it all up with pattern paper, I mean, I can't help it. I kind of love the pattern paper in this collection. So I picked one. had to pick one of the 12 by 12 papers because my traveler's notebook spread is 8¼ inches high, so 6 by 6 doesn't cover it. I trimmed down the same paper that I had used for that middle portion of my ombre page. It's in a slightly larger scale because it is 12 by 12, so it does have that little bit of difference to it, but I knew that it was going to tone in perfectly. I'm going to dig through some of the die cut packs, and I also have those torn bits of paper, the kind of the middles of the pieces that I had trimmed down, so I've still got them to use too. So whatever I stack up here, whatever layers I create, it's easily going to coordinate with the right hand side of the page, but I am just picking through these die cuts to make sure that I don't add any extra colors. So I want to keep the colors that I've got in my ombre, I want to keep those as part of my layers. So going to ignore the blues, I'm going to ignore the pinks, and I'm just going more for that kind of green, a little bit of teal, brown, and the more kind of neutrals. And I want to add a few little pops of black in there just so that my title isn't like standing out too much on its own. I want a few other bits of that kind of color to tie it all together. I love this little tag. It's very hard to tell on video, but it's got these teeny little heart polka dots instead of actual polka dots, which was just perfect. And I really am just going to go for it. I don't plan too much when I'm doing these layerings. I'm by no means an expert at it, but I'm just going to kind of wing it. I don't have a paper that is large enough to mat my photo with, so I'm just going to use 3 of those little strips. You can see here I'm joining one in the middle. I'm using more of the kind of lighter strips. So I've got the leaves, and I've got this, I guess it's kind of an olivey, sagey kind of green pattern, and I joined it with a little bit of the brown. You'll barely see that in there, but I did want to add some of it in there as well. It's not generally a color palette that I would choose myself. I'm much more of a pink girl, as you know. But I really love, I'm just so drawn to this kind of color palette at this time of year. It is just so like dark and cozy kind of here, being in the, hopefully the tail end of winter. And so these colors are so appropriate. Now I've already gone ahead and printed my journaling on some matte clear sticker paper. So I just need one of these little elements to be kind of big enough to fit my journaling on so that I can add that into the layering. I loved that wee like cream piece that had the pink tape at the top. It just wasn't quite the right size to fit into my layers, so I ended up with a tan brown. But that matte paper, it's an Avery label paper, is new to me, and I am absolutely loving it because it does disappear completely. An alternative would be to maybe print on vellum. I usually do that and then run it through my Xyron machine, and it does the similar job, but you can see that there is something there, whereas this matte paper, it just disappears completely. It is beautiful, beautiful to use. So I will leave a link for that down below as well if you haven't seen it. So that's my really basic layering. I don't want to go too thick. Like I said, my notebook is pretty chunky. I think I've got 2 pages to do after this one, so I'm trying to keep things a little bit flatter. The puffy stickers themselves for the title are not especially chunky, and I will end up using a couple of little chipboard and puffies as well, but everything is nice and squishy. It's going to fit in there no problem. So I haven't actually removed my title yet. It's still on the backing sheet. I just cut it off so that I could see how it was going to look, and I'm very glad that I did. I'm going to add a couple of chipboards, and one of these actually turns out to be a little bit of a mistake. So I'm going to add one up there. I thought that I would add 3 of these chipboard pieces. It takes me a while to kind of pick out ones that I like the sentiment for, but also kind of fits with that color scheme that I've given myself. And I wish I had pre-thought about what I was going to do, because I've stuck down the one that says Beautiful Life, and I don't end up being particularly happy with its placement. So at this point I decided I would actually go ahead and commit to my title, stick it down here. I just want to place that so that those words are kind of a little bit, the letters are a little bit closer together than what they are on the sheet, so it doesn't take up quite so much room across the page and becomes a little bit more of a focal point for itself. And the reason I'm decided to stick these down now is because when I was looking at the chipboard sheet, I found one that I really liked. I liked the color of it, was bright enough to stand out on that pattern paper, and I wanted to layer it onto my title. And once I decided that I was going to do that, I just kind of realized I really didn't like the placement of that like beautiful life one where it is. You can see because they're exactly the same height on the page. It doesn't give me much variety. So when I talk about a visual triangle, I mean, technically it's still a triangle. It just doesn't look good there. So I decided to see if I could peel it off, and I knew it would peel off the like layered papers not too badly. I was worried about how it would peel off my photo. I tried to be gentle. I tried to see how it would go. I tried to scrape the little pieces off. It didn't go well. It did leave a little bit of a kind of gummy mark and a little bit of a papery mark. I am much happier without it there though, so I'm gonna just try and work out how I can cover up the kind of gumminess without then taking too much kind of visual attention away from what I've already created. My initial thought was to find a little die cut that I could cover it up with, and I couldn't find anything that really worked. I had the same issue with kind of the strips for the die cuts. What I actually am going to end up doing is grabbing a puffy sticker, because that will just nicely cover up the kind of gumminess, but it doesn't take too much visual attention. You can see I find one that sort of tones in with the background layer there. It's not fighting for attention because it's not another word. So I added the little umbrella. It looked lonely by itself. It looked sad having one puffy sticker on there. So I decided I would add another one up the top here just to balance that out. I'm going to use this wee book stack and then finally call my page all done. So what do you think? I really love this collection. It's super cute. I will leave the link for the Rosie Studios store in the description box if you want to grab some for yourself. Hey, thanks for watching today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you again really soon. Bye!